Hello, Michael Kitces.
Hello, D. David Carl Richards III.
Hey, somebody at is it FPA New England? Is that what they call it? Yeah, FPA New
Yeah,
England came
yeah.
up to me and said, "Hey,"
Massachusetts is now England, New England. Yep.
yeah, came up to me and said, "Hey," came up to me and greeted me that said, "Hey, David Carr Richards the third," and I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's so. I want the whole world to respect. I actually don't, but that's really
I would
nice.
say
Thank
because,
you.
like, if you really want,
No, no.
for everyone who's listening, you heard Carl's latent desire just expressed itself. He couldn't
It's a
help
Freudian
himself
slip, is what that was. Yeah, no,
that you
no.
need to greet him, David Carl Richards III, his
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
given name.
Yes, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. What are we talking about today? I'm sure some AI related thing.
I actually did want to do an AI. I
We've been
feel like you were
avoiding
saying
that.
that
This is perfect.
jokingly, but I actually do want to do. We haven't done some AI, I don't know, some AI things in a little while.
Oh, remember, we're supposed to say it out. Artificial intelligence
Artificial intelligence.
to
We haven't
remind
done some
ourselves.
artificial intelligence things for a while. I feel like this were so now we seem to largely be past the AI is going to replace all the financial advisors. Like that doesn't seem to be. We seem to be doing okay. Now it's a tool to make us better and more efficient, and then we can like handle more clients, and then we won't have a talent shortage because we'll finally have enough advisors to serve all the clients that we want to serve, and then it brings the prices down and we can serve more people, which we can do because we're more efficient. So I feel like we've like shifted from AI is the threat to now, no, AI is going to solve the talent shortage by making us hyper efficient so we can all handle way more clients at a lower cost and expand the reach of advice. So, yay. I mean, I love the mission vision of this. Like, yes, I would love to see advice expand and reach more. And there are very real challenges about what it costs and how that limits people's ability to afford it for large swaths of the population. But I'm if you sort of follow the logic chain to this, right, which is something the effect of AI makes us more efficient in the back office and the middle office so that we have all this additional capacity for clients and we can serve a lot more of them and do it more cost efficiently. Then we get all these great outcomes of expanding reach of advice. We solve our quote unquote talent shortage for the industry because we can just serve so many more clients with who we've got now. And because this is where my brain goes when I like doing, sort of futurism thought experiments, as it were. Uh, when I start following down that path, I don't actually like all the outcomes that I start finding. Like
Hmm.
there's, the first order effect, it gets simpler, we get faster, more efficient, we help more people. Yay. And then it starts getting a little weird to me very quickly.
Hmm.
Uh
Hmm.
I mean, it starts almost out of the gate. I mean, the number of tech companies now that I've seen that have some version of ironic, like quoting our productivity research, average advisor only spends about 25% of their time in client meetings, give or take a little. Another 50 to 60% is all the planning and investment and client servicing stuff that happens in between meetings, behind the scenes, and all that. And then there's like 15 or 20% that just the pure overhead, compliance management, professional development in an advisory firm. And they're saying like 20 something percent of the advisor's time is in client meetings out of the 80% that they spend on client stuff. Wouldn't it be amazing if all 80% was on client meetings and like we made all the other things disappear? I'm like, okay, I don't love my admin work either. But I also don't relish the idea of, I mean, just do the math for a moment. 80% of your time in client meetings. We're talking 6+ hours a day, 5 days a week of client meetings. Maybe this is me and my still like slightly introverted nature as I come to clients in small groups one at a time, but like spending 80% of my time on clients because technology made all the other parts of my job disappear does not actually sound very happy. Like it's kind of a weird dystopian, like I just maybe this is me, but I don't know a lot of people who relish the idea of 6 hours a day every day in client meetings, and not the, you know, not the light fuzzy client meetings, right? We're doing all the client things in the client meetings, right? So there's hard conversations, there's a lot of emotional investment. Not every client discussion is happy or positive. Sometimes we have to break hard news or help them transition through difficult things. Like why? I mean, it's sort of struggling. Like, why is this good? Like, this feels very weirdly dystopian to me if we actually move towards this outcome.
I'm really there, like I've got a couple stories I wanted to share with you, but I'm really struck by the dystopian word. Like I was just thinking about the incredible stories you hear about the Amazon factories. There was some really interesting
Amazon
report.
dot com.
Yeah,
X.
like
Okay.
the fulfillment centers.
Yep.
Where every like 18 sensors on every body, so it's like that
Yeah.
that came to mind of like really high-end factory work um, that's optimized for productivity because we know the advisors who make the most are the most productive are the ones that do more client-facing activities, and we can get everything
Oh,
else out. Like
yeah. I
that's
mean,
fascinating.
yes, and we have data on that. But like the
Sure,
most
it's
productive
true.
advisors that do all the client things, like it's because they spend 32% of their time in client meetings instead of
Well,
25,
then why shouldn't we make it
not
80?
80.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like what? I, I mean, like, the question comes like, what if we only spend a quarter of our time in client meetings, not because we're inefficient beasts who can't figure out how to better use technology? What if we only spend 25 or 30% of our time in client meetings because more than that becomes exhausting?
yeah,
And if that's my capacity before I'm emotionally drained after all my client meetings, then I take the rest of my time and I find productive things to do to support my clients in between meetings because I really don't want that many more meetings on my calendar. I mean, depending on how long your meetings are,
yeah.
30+% of your time in meetings, you're probably coming up on 15 plus meetings a week.
Gosh, that's a lot. Yeah,
And again, I mean, I know for like some of us, if you're doing a high volume of transactional business, you can do a lot of meetings. I did a version of that like very early in my career, but
yeah.
the deeper financial planning stuff, like that's a lot of meetings to do indefinitely. And grant like that's just the level that productive advisors are at today without all the fancy AI things we're talking about. That's supposed to like double and triple the number of client meetings.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of taking kind of assembly line efficiency principles and applying it to cognitive knowledge work and on top of cognitive like emotional intelligence work.
Yeah.
I just don't think I think there's some boundary condition there that's being violated, right? Like you just I remember this I've like this has come up a bunch where people are like, you know, I've had people tell me that, when I say like I just got done snow blowing the yard or
Yeah.
I just got done doing some landscaping, people are like, why wouldn't you hire the landscaper for X because you could make
Yeah.
X? And I'm like, because I can't do any more of the work I'm doing. I have to
Yeah.
go do the landscaping because if I don't go do the landscaping, if I don't touch the dirt, I won't be able to do the
Yeah.
cognitive, emotionally demanding work tomorrow. And
Yeah, What
it
what if
doesn't,
I'm
it
not
doesn't,
inefficient? My brain just really needed a break.
yeah. And it turns out that at least my brain is not wired to do feel the same way as you do, the client meetings. So yeah, it's super. And I think to me, the mental model that's helpful is to say, okay, interesting. Should we optimize every little thing for uh, efficiency, right? Second, does the kind of like factory line, assembly line, time and effort, do those models work when you're talking about emotionally impactful presence work? You know, like let
Right.
alone the financial
Yeah.
planning you're doing behind the scenes. Like those are I think that's an interesting way to view this problem.
And then the next challenge I have to it, just gotta like follow this, pull on this thread for a moment. Like, but in the meantime, I'm also supposed to be getting more efficient because by eliminating all these back and middle office tasks to free up the time and have better margins and bring down the cost so I can span the access, like all the like sort of like ideally good
Yeah, like good
things.
things. Yeah.
Uh I gutted all the entry level jobs that train everybody to eventually get to the end state job where you're an experienced advisor.
Huh.
So
That one's a
I'm like,
problem.
are we trying to get a productivity boom from AI to solve our talent shortage that will then drastically exacerbate our talent shortage because we gut our own talent pipelines
Yeah,
in the name of
that
short-term efficiency, right? Like I can tell a story that the most successful advisory firm 20 years from now will be the one that completely eschews all that AI stuff because they'll have humans who spend the next 20 years learning how to be good advisors and everybody else will spend time not developing any advisors and then 20 years from now or 10 years from now go, wow, our advisors seem really experienced and they're great, but they're retiring soon. And we have no young people in this firm and no young people in the talent pipeline. And we don't even know how to develop talent because we spent past 10 years gutting every entry level position in our firm. And now we don't even have any systems or tools or infrastructure to train anybody
yeah, I okay,
because
so
we
this
spent all the time trying to get factory level efficiency out of the AI and kind of forgot we're a people business that only survives by training and developing new people.
yeah, this is super interesting to me. So let me just two quick stories. One, the analogy I heard recently, which I thought was really, really insightful, was like the printing press at the newspaper, the local newspaper here or in your small town. Not your small town, but like a local
Yeah.
paper, right? They've installed the printing press. There was a
Okay.
guy there that helped install it. He was the maintenance guy for 25 years. He's now retired. Anything goes wrong with that press, you go over to his house with a 12 pack of beer and a pizza, and you con him into coming over and fixing it. And then the day he passes on, nobody knows how this thing works. Like as a metaphor, I think that's really interesting. And then the other one that was
Just
fascinating to me
a
is,
bunch of actual COBOL code.
yeah, there's a really good friend of mine is a professor of physics and he's tenured at a, a, a university in Germany and a university here at the same time. He spends a week here and a week in Germany, a week here, and he's been doing this for years. He's amazing, like one of the most amazing, smart people I've ever seen. And he was telling me the stories. Like he said, there's going to be no more people like me. Like there, people who know how to solve the problems I'm solving will not exist in 5 years. He said because I just had. He's like, he was telling me the story the week that this happened. He's like, I just had the 8 PhDs students that I'm their advisor, and we were reviewing a paper, and one of them had written a paper, and he was flipping through the paper, and there's 8 of them, me and two other PhDs,
Okay.
like advisors on the call. So there was something like 11 people. And he's flipping through the paper, he's presenting it, and he presents a table and presents it. Everybody's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And he moves on. And I was like, something was wrong with that table.
Okay.
He's like, hey, go back. And they dug into it, and like he had gotten that research from his AI research tool, which everybody's allowed to use. It was fine, but it was wrong.
But
And my friend was like, did no one else see that? Because if this paper now gets
Mm.
published, it now becomes a reference document, right? And we're one more layer on top of that, and now we've
Oh,
built
right.
canonical.
Once there's a what once there's a paper that references the paper that references the paper that was wrong, you're never untangling this thread.
Yeah, it's just like there's not going to be anybody to untangle the thing that was wrong, and where it's now going to become a piece of accepted knowledge, but it's wrong. And he's like, we're gonna, and I think about that problem in our industry all the time. Like, how is somebody going to know? Do you know the correlations, standard deviations, and returns of each asset class that went into your Monte Carlo tool? Like, do we know those sorts of things? Do we know how to build an amortization table with a calculator? And I'm not saying that's important. I'm just saying it's interesting if we don't know those things.
One, I mean, to me, there's a really interesting dynamic. I truly struggle with. I don't know how this plays out. So much of AI use right now is some version of it's pretty good, but it's not perfect. And experienced people can use it, get some good leverage from it because they can still spot where like it's wrong or off or you need to step in and intervene, right? Or whether it's like, the coders get it mostly there, but they can fix the harder problems that the AI can't solve, right? I don't know, the advisor will be able to queue up suggestions for planning recommendations and strategies, but that can still vet which ones really don't fit in this particular client situation because,
Right.
because, because. That works because we were all trained in a non-AI world and now get to use the tools.
I know. I know. Super
So if
interesting.
we don't train people, if we don't train people because now we're replacing all those tasks with AI, and then future people come in having never learned anything but that way, does the next generation even know how to use the tool as I'll say like as well as effectively as cognizant of what it does well and where the limits are
Can I
in
take
the
the counter
future?
on this argument for just a minute,
Sure.
just because I'm interested?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
came up the other day. When we point to an AI tool that has, been trained well on all the data, all the knowledge, a million case studies, whatever, and we say it makes mistakes, and we say therefore it's a problem. The one thing we don't know, and we don't have examples over and over and over, is like human advisors make mistakes too.
Correct.
So how much of this is this is just a very interesting thing to add to the dilemma is like I interviewed somebody recently, I won't mention who's a she's a she, I'm trying to be very careful here. She trains therapists at a really prominent institution.
Okay.
She's been doing it for 20 years. And she said to me offline, not off the record, by the way, or else I wouldn't even be mentioning this, but she said to me offline, the AI tool I've trained for therapy is better than 95% of the therapists I've trained. It's still not foolproof. It's just better. It's better because neither are the humans. Like we're not. It's kind of the argument for cars too. Like, yeah, of course Waymo's getting accidents every once in a while. They just get in fewer.
Or like radically fewer. I mean, it's a good
Yeah.
example. Radically fewer. Like
How
we're
much?
we're
And I don't
learning now
want
how
to
bad humans are at actually at driving.
yeah, I don't want to completely derail us, but like in light of this idea of like efficiencies replace hollowing out the apprenticeship, whatever, like even though that
Yeah.
term was never used formally, well, I mean, not often used very formally around here, but in light of all that, like, how do you think about because I was sort of wanting to avoid the two old guys saying, stay off my lawn, like, how do you think about that?
I the
Not that you're old,
question
by the way, not that you're old.
it's all right. The gray's definitely filling in. I'm accepting it. Uh the question that sort of pivots to mind to me is to ask what really are we trying to solve for?
Mm.
So for instance, the thesis that tech AI will automate all the middle or back office tasks for advisors so that we can spend more time meeting with our clients presumes that the problem to solve was how do I
Yeah.
finally get to the point where I can have 6 client meetings a day?
Right, right.
And maybe that wasn't actually something I wanted to solve for
Yep.
as an advisor. Nominally, we say we don't have enough talent coming into the industry. So we need AI to expand advisor capacity so we can serve more people because we don't have enough advisors coming in to serve. Or maybe the problem is that we don't actually have a talent shortage, we have a training shortage.
Hmm.
It's the end of the day, like, not to belittle my beloved profession, but like, you sit on your backside all day giving people advice that mostly, albeit not always, they're appreciative of and make 6 figures in a world where a lot of jobs are highly threatened and we have 90 something% retention rates. It's a pretty sweet, remarkably technology immune, highly remunerative, psychically rewarding, community engaging job.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah.
And basically, every firm I know complains about the fact that they can't find any
Yeah.
experienced advisors to fill in because there's so much demand and we have a talent shortage.
Yep.
And as Philip Halaviv tells a version of this joke, like everybody I know has spent 5 years complaining about the lack of any advisors with 3 years of training.
It
And
fascinating.
if you just started training them 5 years ago, you'd have them by now, right? Is the punchline. We spent 5 years complaining about the shortage of advisors with 3 years of experience. Daniel Yerger calls this like our industry hiring looks like a Christmas tree. Where if you imagine it's like a chart of how many years of experience and what's the demand, nobody wants to buy the first 3 years. After 3 years in, it blossoms into a beautiful wide Christmas tree. Everybody wants to hire that.
That's terrible.
But I mean, that really is
Yeah. Yeah,
what's
no,
playing
it's
out
very
in a lot of
helpful.
firms. And to me, like
Yeah.
what that says is we have a training shortage. And so our solve for a training shortage is let's create technology tools that eliminate the training opportunities.
Right. Right.
Which is why right. So what are we trying to solve for? If I'm really trying to solve for a talent shortage and a training
Mm.
shortage, maybe I don't actually need AI tools that eliminate a bunch of the entry level jobs. Maybe I need AI tools that augment the entry level
What's that crazy
jobs.
calculator you used?
HP 12C.
Yeah, maybe we need more
Come
HP
at me, 10B
12Cs.
people. 12C, 12C.
Maybe we need more 12Cs in the world.
It's
As a metaphor, it's fine. It's a metaphor.
you can go with it literally. I actually don't know if CFP Class A are still teaching reverse Polish notation calculators. Uh, but
But it's a good point.
right, but I mean, just the truth is, what are we actually trying to solve for? I mean, I say it a little bit tongue in cheek, but I'm not kidding
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
raise the question, what if the most successful firm 20 years from now is the one that eschews maybe not all, but large swaths of the AI?
Mhm.
Because everyone else will have 10 years of great AI efficiency and then an even more egregious talent shortage. And the people who build systems to train and develop next generation talent will just have a steady flow of talent that then eventually they grow to the point that you teach them to use AI to make things more efficient after they, I mean, I say like learn the hard way, right? I'm trying not to do the, and you two must go uphill in the snow both ways to school, but you know, learning only comes from doing the work, right? And until unless we get to the AI version where you just plug in matrix style to your brainstem and like literally download how to fly a helicopter, uh like the brain only learns by doing the work and putting the reps in. And there's no evidence that the technology is changing that in any material way. I mean, we can maybe get new and different ways to engage with learning, but like the brain has to still learn through
Hmm.
repetition, exercise, doing it right, doing it wrong, feeling the pain of doing it wrong, and learning not to do it that way in the future. It's why, we as parents spend a lot of time telling children not to touch the stove because we've learned our lesson, and at some point they still have to touch the stove and learn their lesson. Uh,
It's
right. It's
Michael, it's
just part of
actually,
human learning.
I think it's a really interesting thought experiment just to like wrap up on. Like, it's so interesting to just hold. And again, the value of thought experiments is they're just thought experiments. Like, you don't need to hold this thing too seriously or too literally. But if there were two paths, one was massive efficiency gains right now, J curve financial advice, like train a bunch of agents to do a bunch of stuff. Uh, that venture capital firm I think I've mentioned on here, I know a venture capital firm that raised a new round and fired their 45 analysts. So it's just the two partners and a prompt engineer, and they're doing better work.
Well, I hear that I'm like, or
No, and well, let
I
me
don't know
just
who they are. I don't want to get in trouble. Like, or were they just really badly managing people?
or were they super greedy, or were they who knows? But I'm just saying
I'm
let's
not even
let's
going the greedy. I mean, like,
let's just hold
if
this.
there were that many people operating that ineffectively, maybe they just weren't being managed well.
That's fine. I just as an example, let's pretend like there's two paths. You have a firm where you're
Yeah.
highly efficient, and 10 years from now, you have no you have no beginning, middle, or
Yep.
senior advisors
Yep.
to take over. And you have another firm that says, you know what? Just for fun, like 12 C's, handwritten stuff. Like, I don't know how far you take the metaphor, but like we're
I
gonna
mean, there's
find
probably
AI
some more
efficiencies.
modernized version of how you teach the tech, right? There's companies experimenting with that.
Of
Lydia at
course.
Shaping Wealth, Wealth Stream, like how do we teach advisors more
Sure.
effectively?
And we use AI tools for things that aren't the technical tools of advisory,
Yep.
not necessarily just to free up more client facing time like we talked about, but like now we've got this crop of people. We weren't the most efficient firm on the planet,
Hmm.
but we've got this crop of advisors who are really, really well trained, and everybody else is trying to hire them. Like, it's such a fascinating, like, what are you trying to solve for? And could you wake up 10 years from now and go, oh, wow, we've hollowed this whole thing out, right?
Well,
Or
and then the differentiated successful firms are the ones
that's right.
that didn't
So
haul it out.
that's a
And
fascinating.
again, depending on time horizon, right? I mean, your example is good, right? So if my retirement is within 5 to 10 years from now, like, right, yeah, amp up the you're not solving for a talent shortage. Per our episode a couple of weeks ago, like advisory firms are disturbingly liquid. So like, great, use the tech toys, get your incremental efficiencies, maybe get a short-term margin pop. You're not solving for who is your talent 20 years from now. You're solving for how do I get effective income out of my business before I sell it 3, 5, or 7, or maybe 10 years from now. Like, cool, do your thing.
What are
Right?
you
Nothing
solving
wrong
for?
with it. Truly, like, not here to judge or be negative to it. But if you're a longer time horizon, if you're looking at this at what am I doing to build a sustaining, enduring business, just these questions like, did anybody really want to solve for how do I get 6 hours of client meetings a day? I know someone out there, I have few friends I know who actually love like all day, every day client meetings. Like, if that's you, you be you. I'm so happy for you. But like most of us do not really want to do 6 hours of client meetings 5 days a
Yeah,
week. It gets tiring. Uh so you have we accidentally been solving for the wrong thing when we say
love that. Yeah,
I'm solving for the talent shortage by eliminating the entry level jobs that actually fill the talent in the future. I'm solving for 6 hours a day of meetings, but did I really actually want to solve for 6 hours a day of meetings?
yeah.
what are we actually trying to solve for? Like, did I want tech so I can do more hyper nerdy analyses and go even deeper for my clients and still only do 10 to 12 meetings a week and not 30?
Love it. That's super good. Super good. Thanks, Michael.
Awesome. Thank you, Carl.
Okay.
Cheers.